Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast. From still the aforementioned Chase Thomas coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me, co-host of More Important Issues, Caleb Mitchell is here. Caleb, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Despite all of the chaos that this weekend brought, it was a great weekend. It was Masters weekend. One of probably the best, just 6 days. Really, I guess if you want to call that Sunday, anticipating the Monday practice round starting, consider that part of Masters week. We can say 7 days. It's probably the best 7 days in sports. I don't think. I'm not necessarily, I know everybody kind of has their own cup of tea as far as events and sports and championships and all that, but I don't think there's a better 7 days in all sports. So it's been a good week.
Interesting.
Do you have anything that could, for a full week, that could compete with it?
Full week is hard. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like when you throw in the full week aspect, maybe not, but in terms of just like, I really love Vols. I love football season. Like, there's just nothing better than like when you have a good action game in the middle of the week. You have a good Thursday night football game, and then you might have a good, now that there's some college football on Friday night, like a good like weird Utah, Oklahoma State or something on Friday night, and then you just have these big games on Saturday, and then a big Falcons game on Sunday. It's like when the slate's really good in football season, like it's hard to top for me. A good slate, but that's still only like 5 days. And
if they just had it on, some of it on during the day too, that would elevate, I think. But that's a good point. Next year, maybe lead up to the third Saturday in October, I propose maybe like a 7-on-7 game between, I don't know, like Tennessee players, kids or something, like similar to the par 3 contest. I don't know. Let's get weird with it. Just make it a full week of stuff. They got NIL deals now. They got to honor stuff. Like, make them work.
Wow. I'm not gonna I'm good. Like, I just like games. Like, I just want a spring game back. Like, it was sad to see like the before and after of A-Day from 24 to 25, and
but I want the spring game of my childhood, not whatever they peddle into us.
That was not a spring game, and I think it's it's kind of like NIL. It's like, no, it's pay for play. Like, those are two different things. There is NIL deals, like that's all true, but like it's different than pay for play. But we just call everything NIL, and it drives me nuts because I'm like, well, that's not NIL. That's no, that's not what that is. And it's also like spring games. So it's like, you can say that, but that's not what's actually happening here. Right. That we've seen it. Like, these are all fans who we have seen many years of spring games. That was not a spring game. That wasn't even like a practice. I don't know what that was. It was guys dressing up and throwing a few balls, and that was that. Like, it wasn't really, I don't know. It's just kind of sad. And we're overthinking all this. Just get rid of the spring portal window and bring back spring games so that people are not terrified of other teams seeing their players and getting poached in the spring portal window. Like, what are we doing? Spring, I always used to look forward to spring games. Like, spring games are just nice. Like, it's just a nice day, and it's something where fans can from all over come in and used to be able to afford, if they're not sure they're going to be able to get to a game, and fill up Neyland and do that. And it's just, I don't know. It's just a bummer, man.
Yeah, I think that which is just going to take a massive overhaul. But the first year that Neyland can host a full stadium, which I know it won't fill up, but the first time they don't have to limit capacity due to renovations, I think it would be great for Josh Heupel, Danny White to say, we're doing a spring game. It's going to be orange versus white. We're keeping score. Everybody come out. And I think you would get 60,000 people there easily.
Yeah. Well, we have a few different things to discuss here on the football, basketball, and baseball front here, Caleb. You and I, in our respective programs, we talked a lot about the Nico Iamaleava saga here at Tennessee. It's crazy that it's Tuesday and so much has changed from Thursday. It's pretty wild. It's just hard to put into context for the national folks of just how insane the last couple of days have been covering and worrying about Tennessee football. But now that you've had a couple days to let it sit in here, Caleb, what's been the most interesting part to you, or maybe even just the most surprising part of the Nico Iamaleava split from the University of Tennessee?
The most interesting part is really probably just the entire thing, because Thursday, you mentioned it started Thursday. It started late Thursday. Articles got posted midday, I guess, later in the afternoon, started to roll, and then the article, which was the article that everyone had this like note, like a little footnote at the end that said, Nico's happy at Tennessee. I'm paraphrasing, but Nico's happy at Tennessee. This is just a renegotiation. So everything unfolds. I mean, less than 48 hours later, he's gone. I mean, just vanishes, flying out of Nashville, apparently. Can't even fly to McGee Tyson. It's craziness. So for all of it to unfold quickly is just interesting. The dad sending the tweet that I'd be calling it false. It just flat out false. Not showing up, going completely dark for them saying because of social media, which is crazy. I don't know. It all baffles me. And then, I mean, I'm not trying to critique a 20-year-old. I'm not trying to, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, and I think what we're seeing now in a lot of people's opinion, you aren't worth the 2.4 you were making. Yet his agent, his team, his dad was saying he was worth a fair market value of $4 million, which is, everyone's say fair market value. Fair market value in this world, this NIL world, again, where we're just calling everything NIL, every number is essentially made up. I mean, Carson Beck got $4 million. That doesn't mean every starting quarterback deserves $4 million. And you were getting paid handsomely. I don't know what warranted 1.6 more. I don't see it.
Oof. Man, it's just one of those where, again, I have been like on this program and talking to different people. Like, I'm not putting any of this on Nico. Like, Nico, the individual. I can't do that. 19, 20-year-old kid. And I'm like, I just think this all requires a lot of nuance. And the people around him, I think, failed Nico over this past week. I think he got bad advice. I think I think Nico was happy. Like, that report of like Nico enjoyed his time in Tennessee. I think Nico was happy playing football for the University of Tennessee is my gut. And I just feel bad for him because now it just feels like every new report of like, well, UNC's out, USC's out, Notre Dame's out. And I don't know. I just feel bad for the kid, the situation that he's in. And I don't know. That's that I'll continue to maintain that in terms of Nico specifically. Because it's also like when people are like, oh, he's an adult. It's like, well, yeah, but you remember when you were a sophomore in college?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're quote unquote an adult, but you still go to your parents for like guidance and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like, if I was in that situation with my dad, like it's just, I don't know. I always lean towards empathy and nuance with this kind of stuff, and I just think it's so complicated. And I also just think it's bigger than Nico in Tennessee. I just think this is still something that like the spring portal window's got to go because this is not a problem. The spring portal window does not exist. Sure. Because then you just look at it in December of like, hey, if you think you're worth $4 million, we can't do 4, but if that's what it's like you're looking at, then we've got to depart ways, and we're going to go in the portal and get somebody else who fits our budget better. And that's,
I think that you're right. It's super nuanced, and to an extent, I agree with you. Like, it's not on Nico, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, it falls to him because this is ultimately going to affect his life, far more than it's going to affect his dad's life, because it's his name. Like, as much as like there's Tennessee fans giving his father a hard time, like it's Nico's name that's being blasted with all this news. It's Nico being told, we don't want you at North Carolina, because I'm sure the baggage that this story is carrying, if Tennessee talked bad about James Pierce, I can't imagine what they're saying about Nico, if that story's true. I mean, I just can't imagine about what that is being told about this camp. And so it's going to be hard to find a landing spot if it is truly as difficult as it seems to be to work with that team. The fact that no coach could get a hold of Nico on Friday through anyone is that is baffling. You're a starting quarterback for an SEC team. I mean, you're the de facto leader, and you're not at Friday morning meetings before, for all intents and purposes, a game. Like, you're preparing as a team for a game. I'm sure they tried to make it a game like Friday, and you're not there, and they don't know where you're at. And it's this is a lot like the Jalen Hurd situation, in my opinion. Jalen Hurd made a bad decision based on bad advice he got from his team. Awful advice. and he left somewhere where he was incredibly successful, and I think he would have continued to be successful because people gave him awful advice, and it affected him far more than it affected those people.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish him well. I hope it works out for him wherever it is.
Yeah,
I also just think Tennessee, I think people went a little bit too overboard in terms of Tennessee. I think we're going to learn this week how serious Josh Heupel is about if he's going to be a Kirby type guy, because you're getting all the publicity and all the good publicity, I should say, of like Tennessee stood strong. Tennessee held to what they thought was a fair number. Tennessee did not acquiesce, whatever, to that number. The problem is, like, Nico's still gone. Like, it's not like you traded Nico for 3 first-round picks because you couldn't come to a contract. It's just that the thing is, you lost Nico for nothing, and you lost him in the spring window, not the winter window, where you could have gotten someone like he got all those first-team reps, and you have no idea what you have in Jake Merklinger. George outplayed him on Saturday in the spring game, but who cares? Like, it just what can you really say about that?
Right.
But you can't go into next year with just 2 scholarship quarterbacks anyway. But the problem is, like, now I just don't see a way around Heupel and the staff not going hard at a sitting power 4 starter. Like, you're going to have to be a bad guy now because of what happened to you in terms of this Nico debacle. Like, you don't get a mulligan. Like, there are some people who are like, well, hey, we love Heupel right now, and that's all good. Like, I'm still pro Heupel. My point, though, is the difference between being a good coach and an elite coach is moments like this, where it's like, are you going to take some arrows here if you go in and you go get Avery Johnson or something, like a sitting power 4 coach? Like, we're just throwing a name out here. I think he'd be awesome here. Like, Avery Johnson would be my number 1 pick if you can get anybody out of the portal here. It'd be Avery Johnson. But like, if you go get somebody who's a sitting quarterback at a good, like, power 4 program, you're going to get some serious blowback. Like, you're going to get some negative press for this, even with the nuance of like, well, what were we supposed to do? Because we just lost our quarterback and we're trying to keep this. But you had a 9.5 over under for a reason. You were tied with the big 4 in the top of this conference.
Isn't it crazy?
The schedule's still nice. Like, you still have to take care of this. It only went down to game without Nico.
Which I think I'm in the boat of, I think he improves I think he improves in year 2 at a good rate, but you lost a lot. I just think that's natural. Like, typically that's what's going to occur. If we're just, I don't know.
I don't think progress is linear. Some guys do, some guys don't. Like,
if we're using data points, like, he's going to improve. I don't know how much. That's the question.
Joe didn't get better. You could argue Joe was worse by the from year 1 to year 3.
I think Joe got better. It just wasn't much better.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think year 1 would have gone. That injury was the best thing to happen to Joe Milton in Tennessee. I mean, there was not a lot of pretty.
But it was also very early in the year. I mean,
we played
it was week 1. Yeah, so
we played Bowling Green and Pitt, and Pitt was a good team, but they really just had a good offense. Their defense was a Pat Narduzzi coach defense, but other than that, nothing special.
Yeah, I just look at it in terms of Tennessee. They cannot use a mulligan year. You can't treat this like that's what's gotten Hugh Freeze into trouble at Auburn. Is Hugh Freeze thought he had time, where he's like, I'm going to recruit and stack top 10 classes, and we're just going to get by with Peyton Thorne for 2 years. Here's the problem. You now have a losing record in 2 years at Auburn. You then just put all of your stock into Jackson Arnold here as a guy who got benched in the Tennessee game, Tennessee-Oklahoma. If you go 5-7 or 6-6 because you bet and gambled wrong on Jackson Arnold and being able to revitalize him, you're out. Like, Hugh Freeze is not going to make it another 6-6, 5-7 year. And I think Heupel's built up so much goodwill here. But the problem is, like, you have to still take advantage of the schedule. You still have to take advantage of a top 10 scoring defense. You still have to take advantage of the great circumstance that you're walking into. Like, I just think you have to be bold here. Like, I don't think you have a choice. I think you have to still push for a college football playoff berth. And I think it's fair for fans to still be like, that's the standard now. Like, if you want to be one of the big dogs here, and we see ourselves as one of the big dogs in the SEC, guess what? We reload. We're bigger than just the quarterback, and we can. All the other factors are still in place to make this a really attractive spot for a transfer quarterback. but you have to move. You cannot look at like, let's just get through this year 7-5, 8-4, whatever, and just slog through and let Jake go through his lumps and then the cost him case. Like, you just can't do that. Like, you can't. It's a year-to-year sport now.
I agree with 99% of what you're saying. I think the nuance I would add to it is, from a program perspective, I respect what the tough decision Josh Heupel had to make to walk in on Saturday, probably decided it Friday afternoon after seeing the locker room. I mean, we saw the reactions from the players. They were not happy. The mending that relationship with Nico sounds like it was going to virtually be impossible. So to take away from the guy that you have put everything on, since he was a junior in high school, like, this is the chosen one. This is who we're getting. This is who's going to return us to prominence, and say, we're going to walk away because, I mean, that's the thing, is it wasn't just the $4 million that had Tennessee waddling back and forth. It was the full-on negotiation, clearly, the not showing at practice on Friday that finally decided the practice was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was, we're walking away from this now. There's nothing to reconcile. And yeah, you don't want to see Tennessee fail. In fact, like, they're still saying they should win 8-9 games, and I think they absolutely should. They should be in playoff contention. But if we want the program to be the program, it's got to be bigger than one person. But at the same time, that one person is a vital part of the team. Sometimes you have to walk away from that. And I think, I mean, I respect Josh Heupel a lot more if Nico was 9 wins of that and says, we're not doing this, and walks away. And I think if you really want to care about Tennessee, I think you have to understand that and appreciate that about Josh Heupel.
Yeah, I'm still, like I said, I'm pro Josh Heupel, but this is an inflection point kind of thing for me in terms of where Heupel's at.
I want to see how the season plays out, because I also said to a friend, I was like, this could be really, really good for the locker room but I mean, I think you got to get some wins early. It can be a rally cry. They can, like, we're bigger than one person. But if you don't get a few wins early, if something goes wrong early, it could be a huge fracture.
That's why you can't go in with Jake and George and then just like a warm body as a third scholarship guy. Like, you have to bring in a starter. Like, and then if Jake beats him out, or Jake is, then
right,
great.
Yeah.
But it cannot be like, here you go, Jake. Like, that cannot be the situation.
It has to be someone with
an
obvious starting potential. They don't necessarily have to be the day one starter the day they get on campus, but yes, they have to be someone you're going, that's a competition off the bat.
Give me Sawyer Robertson. Give me Avery Johnson. I don't know who the most realistic guys are here, but
I mean, Avery Johnson, like, everything's kind of like the stars are aligning for that, right? I mean, that's what it's looking like.
I don't know. I can't even pretend to, like, that would be such a devastating blow, because I think they have the highest over-under in the Big 12 this year.
Do they?
Oof. I mean, that'd be brutal. If I'm a K-State, because that's the thing, like, Tennessee, I just feel like they're getting all this positive publicity this week. They have to be Sharks. They have to. Like, it's just, if you want to be big boy football, you want to be Georgia, you want to be Alabama, you want to be Texas, that's what you have to do now. You have to be cold-blooded here, and you have to go out for a big name.
I don't think anyone should fault Tennessee. No one's faulting USC for talking to them. No one's faulting UCLA, whoever else was tied to all this. No one's necessarily faulting them. I mean, they love Dan Lanning for the inside scoop.
Yeah.
But no one's faulting them. It's more the fault of Nico's camp of.
I don't think it's a Nico camp thing. I just think it's the system. Like, like Josh Payton talks this all the time. It just incentivizes constant renegotiations and stuff, and seeing what your best value is. Like, that's the system that they're operating in. And I just fix the system. That's my whole thing. And because this will, like, that is my biggest thing. Just fix the system.
It needs to be clear, aligned. This is pay for play. It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Basketball question for you. I'm curious because I've gone back and forth on this, because Tennessee has not gone down this road since Keon and Jaden Springer and Kennedy Chandler. They had that run there. And Julian Phillips, who did not work out here at all, the last 5-star wing that Tennessee brought in. But I think Keon's kind of lost in the shovel, because I think if that's not a COVID year, I think Keon has a really good year at Tennessee. Sure. I think Keon would have been really good. That being said, do you think Nate Ament, like, are you buying or selling they should go all in at what it's going to take financially to bring in Ament, and then who they've already brought in thus far? Do you think they should go that route, or you think they should keep this what they've done the last 2 years, where it's just super old in terms of how this team is constructed, and use that on like maybe 2 transfers instead of just like maybe 1 transfer and then a lot in the mid? Because I've gone back and forth on this.
Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is for that, because I would like to say stick with the transfer portal and what you've done because it works, but I think this year's going to be so different than what we've seen the last 2 years because you don't have that core base. Like, it's just it's a drastically different landscape. I feel like if you were in contention with a player like Nate Ament, I think you have to try, and I think you have to see what's there, and if you could put together the money, why not? I mean, well, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I would think I'd be. Then it kind of puts you in that Josh Heupel pickle of, well, you better be right this way. I don't know.
It's a hard call because you saw how old, like, there's not any 5 stars in the national title game, right? Like, it's tough because I think, you have UConn's had those situations where, Cooper Flagg was the best player in college basketball this year, and I think Duke was still the best team overall all year long, and Duke still made the Final Four with Cooper Flagg, and I'm not saying Nate Ament is Cooper Flagg, but Barnes has also made it with Durant, obviously, as a 5-star freshman, and I think it's definitely in the realm of. It's also just fun. Like, that's something I've also just fallen back on. I'm like, I like to see a future in NBA. I like seeing NBA lottery picks on Tennessee. Like, we've had a good success here with Lanier and Dalton back to back, but I would enjoy having a 5-star superstar talent like Nate Ament here for a year, even if it's only for a year. It's just different. Let's because you got to remember, sports is a TV show for most of us, and it's like that's a good new season. Let's change gears here a little bit. I've loved the transfer portal, big name the last 2 years. Let's bring in a 5-star freshman again. Let's see what that's like, because the Julian Phillips thing did not go well, but Kennedy Chandler was a home run for Tennessee, and I think Keon would have been too, just in a different year. But yeah, I don't know. I hope it happens because I think it'd be fun. And then you also steal him from Duke potentially, which would be a nice win, because that just feels like that never happens.
Duke or Kentucky's in the mix. I think Arkansas's in there too still.
I think, and then it was leaning Louisville for a while, but then he called off his commitment date, so it just, I don't know. It still could be Louisville. I don't know where he ultimately ends up, but I hope it's Tennessee, because that'd be fun. Like, I would like to have Nate Ament here for a year.
It sucks because all the programs we just mentioned are very viable candidates to farther your NBA prospect. But man, if I'm a kid, especially if I'm going to be there for 1 year, money's not. It's probably top 3, but it's not number 1 for me as far as what can I get in year 1. Because if you're truly a lottery pick, that check, whatever check you got written your freshman year, is going to. You could burn that money. With
I saw Chaz
the
got
amount of
knocked
money
to
you
the
get on
first round
lottery
here this week.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, if he goes to first round, he could just about burn the NIL money he made at Tennessee and laugh at it. Which that's kind of the funny part about the Nico situation. If you're truly one of the best quarterbacks in the country, this is a draft year, this is a money year, you kind of believe in yourself. Like, you can burn this money. Who cares?
Yeah. You got to see big picture. Final thing here. Tennessee baseball get 2-3 over the Rebs in Oxford. Sunday was crazy. Like, I have 2 screens up with the Masters and Rory trying to survive here down the stretch, and you're like, is Rory gonna blow this? And then you're also like, is Tennessee just like, how many errors? It's just too many errors to overcome here, and it's not gonna happen for Tennessee today. And then Reese Chapman, top of the 9th, just great stuff from Reese Chapman all year. Quiet, but like just doing what he needs to do in that 6-hole and 5-hole sometimes, depending on what day and who's in the lineup. But I think it's interesting now because Marcus Phillips has had 2 bad outings in a row on Saturday. He was a great early story, but we always kind of wondered, it's like, will he be able to hold the weekend rotation spot throughout the course of the year? And then you have Tegan Kuhns, whose stats were a little misleading on Sunday. I thought Kuhns definitely pitched better than Marcus on Saturday. He also just got bad defense. Like, I thought Tegan was good on Sunday, and Tegan's been really solid for Tennessee on Sundays. AJ's not pitching tonight as we're recording this on Tuesday night before Tennessee Bellarine, and he's not starting. I wonder, with Kentucky coming in this weekend, Caleb, if we get AJ's first weekend start. Like, I'm not saying he's going 6 innings, but it feels like we're heading towards that direction. But to you, based on what you've seen from Tegan, based on what you've seen from Marcus of late, if AJ is cleared to start one of these weekend spots, which way do you lean? Who do you shake up there?
I think right now you got to shake, and it's probably hard to shake up the Saturday versus the Sunday, but you probably shake up the Saturday right now because Tegan has pitched well in his last few outings, and let that one, I guess, like let it ride it out and until it starts to fall off, and you can address that issue if and when it arises. I do kind of wonder with still coming back from injury, like you said, how many innings does he have in him? How many pitches does he have in him? We don't know. I don't know if the staff truly knows. Kind of wonder if they stack Marcus Phillips and him on Saturday. I know they like to do that with Blade Tidwell. Is that 2022, whatever year that was, when he was coming back from injury. I kind of wonder if it's that situation. And I don't know. I hope this is kind of for Marcus. Just so much fun to watch. I was talking about this the other night, actually. I kind of wonder and hope, could this be a Xander Seacrest type situation where can we just get him some relief and get him to the later part of the season, and does he settle back in and have a stretch where he's playing good baseball again? That's all just hope and prayer, but this kind of feels like about the same time we all wondered if the Xander magic was up. I mean, because we're in mid-April now, which is wild. So I don't know, and I feel like, and I think Tennessee's bullpen is playing well, but I don't know if it's as consistent as you want it to be. So I wonder if they can get more consistent, if you feel better about your options. I mean,
there are guys who are just not even in the picture anymore that we thought, like Binky's not in the picture. Combs is not in the picture. Krenzel has been great. Like, he's been someone you needed to come on. Sneed's hit a little bit of a rough patch, but he's going to be okay. Like, I'm not worried about Lloyd and Sneed. Like, they're going to be fine. Like, those two are going to be okay. And you needed Krenzel, though. Like, Krenzel breaking out here a little bit has been important for Tennessee.
Yeah, and so I think that could help the entire pitching staff as a whole. Yeah, I'll probably shake up Saturday right now, though. And again, maybe they stack it, and maybe they go with Russell first and then come in with Marcus. I don't know how that looks. And I don't even know if that's a pair they necessarily want to put together. But that just seems like the obvious candidate to shake up.
Yeah, I didn't really like. Was it Saturday they did Marcus to Arvidsson? I think.
I'd have to go back and look. I didn't get to watch this weekend. It was it was a crazy weekend. And then Masters, I was dialed in on Sunday. I didn't cry when Rory won. I might have cried for him if he had lost. Might have, especially in the way that it happened. I mean, who?
Yeah, only 11 years left of Jim Nantz calling these games, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's the exact timeline for Rory to win his second Masters. So stay tuned.
There you go. We got Happy Gilmore 2 coming out this summer. It's a lot of golf.
Yeah, I canceled my Netflix.
Yeah,
$17.99 a month now.
Wait, what?
Netflix is $17.99 a month.
Is it?
Now.
I don't
know.
I think
I've
had it for like 10 years.
With,
I have it 10 years, like so long. Netflix could keep gradually, like, I'm not an idea at Netflix. This is not an idea, but like 25 cents a month increase. It would take me a while to.
That's the problem. Is I just happened. I don't know how long it's been $17.99. I just happened to see that on my bank statement. I was like, cancel it. Nope.
You're out.
Yeah. The ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, Hulu bundle is by far the best deal in all streaming.
Because what, 19?
$14.99 a month, I think.
For those three?
And that might be a discount with like AT&T or something, but I think I pay $14.99 a month.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
Yeah. So
good deals.
That's where I'm at.
Or like Clark Howard back in Atlanta. We're looking for the deals. Caleb Mitchell, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at More Important Issues this week?
We will be back on the radio Thursday night over in the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios, a fan run. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube to see that. And then Thursday morning, we will have a special release. I teased it last week because I thought it was happening last week. It's this week. This week we got a special guest on. I'm excited to do that. It's Tennessee baseball related. That's all I'll give, so Landon doesn't kill me. Tennessee baseball related, and then back on Sunday. to do some more. Hopefully, no more transfer portal news. Hopefully, all that's out. It is kind of like it is a little fun in our world to like get to sit down and like talk about this, but as a fan, it drives me wild. So
I'm all about it, man. I'm so fired up because I think Tennessee can upgrade a quarterback. Like I'm so curious at where they're gonna go. I'm so locked in. You have no idea, Caleb.
I wanted him to go to Tulane. I really wanted.
I don't. Mine's not about where Nico's going. I don't care.
Well,
like,
just in terms of like where
I care
land.
about who's coming into Tennessee. Like that is my focus. That is where I am locked in. I'm like, let's see what's Idaho's quarterback looking like. Let's dive into UW. Let's go around. Like I'm locked in everywhere.
That's less fun though if it doesn't work out. I kind of just wanted to see what happened at Tulane. That's who I'm with in my online dynasty. I'm the offensive coordinator. We've had a lot of successful years. We're going to win a championship one year.
Yeah.
It's coming. So yeah, I wanted Tulane. But yeah, the chaos is fun. It gets harder when it's your team. But I mean, let's not forget, it was kind of fun when Cam Carr left. Like it was just like.
No, that one was more of like I didn't like that because you can't upgrade. Like it's the middle of the year. Like there's nothing you could do at that point. You're down a body.
Yeah, but it sucked. But also, it was one of those like it wasn't your starting leader.
I don't know. I was pretty nervous about that one. I'm like, man, they're walking. That situation was Tennessee's wide receiver room now. Where it's like, I think Tennessee's good if they can stay healthy with those 7.
Right.
But it's like Tennessee's wide receivers. It's like if Braylon misses 6 weeks, like I cooked. Like you just can't have it. Like Braylon's got to play. Mike Matthews has to play. Like they
let's
just
not
have to
forget
be available.
These two things have happened in a matter of months. We've had a basketball player leave in December and a starting quarterback for no really explicit reason. Obviously, we can say money, but I mean, what is money? It's so abstract now.
I mean, think about how wild the Chase Burns transfer was. Like we forget because years have passed.
What in the middle of the season though? Well,
no, but it was wild. Like that was a time where
middle
it's like,
season,
because you thought he was going to be the guy. Like it was kind of a Nico situation to me, where you thought Chase Burns was going to be the next star on Friday nights. He was going to get back. It was a great story where you're
Chase Burns is the worst transfer in my opinion of all time.
Oh,
at Tennessee, it tops Nico's. If Nico had failed as a quarterback and then exceeded expectations as a wide receiver, I would be saying it's just as dumb. If they had gotten him an NFL roster spot as a wide receiver, then that's the equivalent of Chase Burns.
Man, I wanted to see one more year of Chase Burns on Friday nights.
I did too, and he's probably a starter. He's probably back in a starting role.
Yeah, he's back.
It's crazy.
But do you want a title if Burns is back? Who knows?
I think you do.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I can't imagine that team's not as good.
I mean, but think about part of the story of that team is just the weekend rotation was insane. Like it's just the way they were able to piece it together with an opener on Friday and Xander on Sundays. Like it's an all-timer. Like I don't know. So it's
I'm glad we got
to
see Xander on Sundays, and I'm glad it was Xander who was the hero when it was all said and done.
100%. Caleb Mitchell, always a pleasure, and I'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Ons podcast where I'm joined by old friend Vols 247's own Ryan Callahan. Ryan, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Doing well. How about you, Chase?
Pretty good, Ryan Callahan. We are days removed from the Nico Iamaleava saga over the weekend, and I want to talk about other things. I want to talk about other things with Tennessee football, and one of the things I'm most curious about, because it's been a while since Tennessee kind of had I would say a rush of guys coming in, like Tyreek King from Catholic, and you saw a couple of big names. Like, okay, Tennessee's quietly adding some big pieces here. They could be done. Like if Tristen Keys had gone the way Tennessee had hoped, then like you're done with the wide receiver board here in the early part of the spring. But that not obviously go the way Tennessee had hoped to this point, because everything can change up until signing day there with the 5-star out of Mississippi. But my first question to you, Ryan, when you're looking at the 26 part of this, who is your favorite? Because I thought this would be fun in terms of the refresher for Vol fans who may not remember everybody who's in the boat right now for 2026. Who is your favorite non-Faison Brandon player currently in the 2026 class for Tennessee?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm a pretty big Tyreek King fan. I think that's a great system fit. Just an explosive guy. You don't have many of those in state. They've had some good playmakers in state before, but not many that are quite like him. So I think that's a really good fit for Tennessee, and definitely one of the more exciting guys in this class. So I like him quite a bit. That's probably the first one that comes to mind. It's a pretty interesting group though so far. I think there's some real upside. CJ Edwards is one that's probably flown under the radar for a lot of people, but is a pretty talented guy. If they end up getting 2 edge rushers in this class, he's going to be the one that probably flies under the radar the most. But his upside is probably as exciting as anyone in that group. And then probably the bigger name, although rating wise he's not at the top of the list right now, but Tyson Bacon, his stock has really gone up quite a bit since he committed back in the fall, and he's to the point that Tennessee's going to have to weather a handful of official visits to other schools. Ohio State just offered recently, so he's a guy whose stock has risen quite a bit since he committed. So I would say he's high on that list too. But yeah, Tyreek King for me personally is probably the one that stands out, just because I think wide receivers, that position, Tennessee's not. They've gotten some guys. We'll see this year what they've got in Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley. But if there's a position that you'd say they maybe haven't gotten the roster quite where they want just yet, and maybe this may totally change by the end of the year, because we'll see what they've got in Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson. I think those guys, there's reason to be excited about them. But if they can get just the right slot, the right dynamic playmaker guy that can take a 10-yard pass and go to the house with it again, maybe not another Jalen Hyatt type, but someone with at least some of those types of traits. I think that's a big deal for this offense. So I think Tyreek King is pretty exciting if you're a Tennessee fan.
How is he different? Because Travis Smith, it's obvious like how he's different than Mike and Braylon and some of the other names. Like his catch radius is huge. He's a huge kid. He's more, I feel like, filled out as a true freshman. It just feels like he's in a good spot to contribute, I think, right away. Part of that's numbers, of course, for Tennessee with 7 scholarship guys, but I also just think he's going to push Brazel on that opposite side. And he was also a big name player at Westlake, a powerhouse back in Georgia. And that's one of the things I look at with Mike and Travis specifically. Number 1 player in the state of Georgia in back-to-back years at wide receiver coming out of high school. And I think there's a lot of room for growth, and I wouldn't be surprised if they both had really good careers at Tennessee. They just need Braylon Staley to stay healthy is a big thing. Like they need Braylon. Like there's just not the depth behind him. Like Boo Carter's going to get some snaps there, but like Joakim Dodson's not a early enrollee. So maybe Rodarius, who had the catch of the day in the orange and white game, maybe he can play some slot. Maybe that's kind of how you get him on the field earlier.
I wonder if Mike Matthews just goes to the slot if something happens there. That's
interesting.
One possibility. I could see that maybe where you just throw Travis Smith outside with Brazel and Matthews goes in the slot. You've got some options there, but yeah they maybe need someone from the portal there. That's going to be interesting to see this spring what they do at wide receiver, because I think you need another body there. It's just a matter of what do you get. And yeah, maybe Joakim Dodson has to be ready to contribute in a pinch like that in the slot. But yeah, they not a ton of depth there overall. So I think they've got to bring in somebody from the portal. I couldn't imagine going into a season with 7 scholarship receivers. I know it's tough to keep ideal depth at any position these days, but I just think you've got to have somebody else at that position.
I agree. Speaking of receiver, we talked about him at the top here because it feels like forever ago that Tristen Keys just out of nowhere. It felt very random that Tristen Keys committed to LSU. But you also get it. It's like LSU. I mean, it's hard to, outside of Ohio State, there's not anyone with better wide receiver track record in the last 10 to 15 years, putting guys in the NFL and stars in the NFL than LSU. But Tennessee obviously was in that deep and still, I think, in it deep. And you have the Faison connection there that felt like gave Tennessee a better shot at potentially landing Keys. Do you think that's over, or do you think that's still one to watch this summer and this fall with OBs and where Tristen Keys is at?
Yeah, it's not over. He's going to take his official visits. It sounds like Tennessee will still get one, so there's reason to think they still have a shot. Now that one, the timing of that commitment was surprising because he already had all these official visits on the books. Didn't seem to be anywhere close to a decision after initially back in the fall acting like he might make a winter, early spring type decision. Didn't follow through on that. It kind of backed off that. And then next thing you know, he's committed. But LSU was the team that was always kind of hovering in the background. Even at the time, Tennessee and Alabama, I think, were the two that a lot of people felt were in the best shape at that point. But you had Texas A&M hanging around. You had LSU hanging around. And LSU was the one I always kind of had my eye on. LSU's gotten apparently an influx of some NIL money this offseason. Losing has a way of motivating a lot of programs, especially in the SEC. So I think they've gotten pretty aggressive with some of those guys. And you got to remember, Tristen Keys is in Hattiesburg. He's down there close to New Orleans, not too far from LSU country. So that that is almost a home state guy for them. So to have a 5-star receiver like that in the area, I'm not surprised they made a big push for him and were able to land him. But that's one that, yeah, I don't think he's shutting that down anytime soon. And still getting that official visit, you've got a shot if you're Tennessee. But I wouldn't, if I'm coming up with a mock class for Tennessee today, I'm probably not penciling in Tristen Keys right now. It feels like they've got some real work to do there to be able to flip him. So we'll see what comes out of the official visits this summer. But that seems like one that might be at least tough to land, just because there's so much competition for him. Not, even if he flipped, it wouldn't necessarily be to Tennessee. It could be to somewhere else. So that's going to be one that's, the number one receiver in the country in some people's eyes. Like, guys like that are just hard to get these days, and they end up being big NIL battles a lot of times. So I just don't know if that's one I would count on Tennessee winning, but they're still right in the thick of it and have a real shot.
Kind of like they're behind Florida, where I'm glad Heupels have moved on from the state of Florida. He was good. He was trying early on. Who was the cornerback who they were in deep with?
I had a conversation about him recently, and now I blanked on the name then too, and now I can't think of it.
He ended up at Florida State, right?
Yeah.
What was his name? But he was a 4-star corner, and they were in it deep with, and then it was like he still ended up staying home after all that, and it's like I can't not remember his name off the top of my head.
It's gonna bother me.
But like it's one of those. They look up Florida State, and I mean the Florida kids, and then it's Mississippi. I think is the other one.
Kai Bates.
Who?
Kai Bates.
Kai Bates. Yes. Yeah. And that just feels like the last time Tennessee went in deep with a Florida kid, and it was like, it's probably not going to work. It traditionally, it's never really been a great strategy to try and pull kids out of the state of Florida to get to Rocky Top. I think Mississippi is underrated number 2 hardest to pull kids from the state of Mississippi. It seems like that's always one that's hard, because I think there's a real in-state pool for a lot of those guys, and it's harder because it's a ways, and it's just I don't know. I think Tennessee's base is state of Tennessee, obviously, North Carolina, Georgia, and then you pick your spots in South Carolina and Alabama. That's to me how I feel like. And then obviously if there's a national guy you have a connection with, whatever, you go do that, especially quarterbacks. But I don't know. That's kind of where I think they've settled in, which I think is smart. But Mississippi just feels like it's always one where it's like if you're getting excited, like let's see, wait until they commit for a Mississippi kid.
You'd have to go back to like Paris Harrelson, to find Tennessee having gotten a big time player out of Mississippi. And it's just a different age now. Ole Miss they don't have the biggest stack of resources when it comes to NIL, but when there's a big time guy in state, they can prioritize him to the point they've got a real shot. And the big thing is when those guys leave the state, it's often for an LSU or an Alabama or an Auburn, and those are all closer than Tennessee in most cases. So that's it. Yeah, it's a tricky state. There's some others that have, I've always said Louisiana has as strong of an in-state poll as anywhere. Ohio is way up there. Ohio State has they don't lose many that they want up there. So it's different with NIL now. You see more of those guys that are willing to leave to that kind of to the highest bidder or to the best overall package they find. But yeah, those are some of the states that for sure have that strong in-state poll. And Mississippi is that's a good reference there. Kind of a strong in-state attachment that a lot of guys don't get away from there sometimes.
The next commitment is which position group are you guessing, Ryan Callahan?
Yeah, that's what's so tough right now is we're in that kind of calm before the storm where somebody probably will commit before June. You don't know for sure, but it's been quiet for a little while. But so many guys right now are all saying they're going to wait till official visits in June and then make their decision this summer.
But that never happens. Someone does it.
Yeah, but who is it? I often look in state. That's often where you have the best chance of getting someone. So I don't know who it would be at this point, but because they all have official visits on the books. So I don't know. I mean, this would just be a total shot in the dark. I'll say cornerback. Maybe they get that's a position where they need to get somebody in this class. They're going to need at least 3, maybe 4 in this class, I think. So maybe they get that cornerback class started at some position. If not there, I could maybe see edge rusher. Let's change my guy. I will go with edge rusher. They'll get their second guy in this class. I could see that maybe happening before June. So I'll go with that as my official guess, but maybe cornerback would be an outside possibility too. But yeah, it's kind of a shot in the dark because there's just not a whole lot that appears to be imminent at this point. Like you said, usually something happens in April or May. There's been some post-spring game activity in the last couple of years. This year, I don't know if there's anything on the horizon like that. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. And the other part of this is I think the portal is sort of at the forefront for Tennessee right now. So does that sort of distract them from making a strong push for anyone that might convince someone to get across the finish line this early? That might at least help things hold off until May. So we'll see how much of that they do. But coaches go back on the road here soon. The spring evaluation period technically underway. Tennessee will go out next week, I think, to start their visits. So once those visits happen, that's no longer an evaluation period. You're actually meeting in person with coaches. So those visits can always prompt activity. So you never know. But yeah, it's hard to really pinpoint any one player that might be close.
I like it. Well, the person in state, when we're talking about like just in-state options, the one that like I think I've got circled, and I think a lot of ball fans have circled, is Craig Tutt at Oakland, because there have been, let me check my notes here, 0 blue chip safety signees in the Josh Heupel era, which is weird because it's every other area they've added blue chippers. But last year, it was the one just gut punch was the Lagonza Howard, Shady Hayward situation at the end, because you're like, man, I think he's just a really good player, and out of the state of Georgia, it's like that would have been a great pool, and it just obviously falls through for whatever reason. But you still need a blue, like you still need, like, I just give me one. And Craig Tutt is in state, and you don't have many of those blue chip guys in state. Do you think Tennessee right now is in a good spot with Tutt?
I think they are. That's been an interesting recruitment where I'm not sure his current ranking maybe reflects the way his stock is seen nationally. He's a bit of a smaller guy. He's a little bit under 6 feet, I would say. Just a good football player though. I'm a pretty big Craig Tutt fan. I think that's the type of guy that just a good player, and on both sides of the ball at Oakland, pretty good running back, part-time also, where he got some carries last year when they had DeJuan Morris and multiple guys in that backfield. He would still get in there some on offense and make some plays. So I think that's always a good sign when you're just a guy that the team wants to get the ball in your hands on Friday nights, even though you're a defensive back. And so I think Craig Tutt's a good fit for Tennessee. I think I could definitely see him ending up in Tennessee's class. That's kind of looks like maybe a Tennessee Ole Miss battle right now. I think Ole Miss has made him a pretty big priority, so we'll see how that one goes. But I think Tennessee's in a pretty good spot there, and the fact they were the first team to lock in an official visit with him suggests they're in pretty good shape going into the summer. But that's one where I think he's still been feeling out his stock, where his value is going into the summer. And so, Michigan's in the picture. We'll see where else he ends up going. But Tennessee I think they've been right at the top of his list all along. And it was weird. He went 5 or 6 months without visiting Tennessee before he finally made it back for a spring practice. But getting him back on campus, I think, was a good step. And Tennessee seems to be in as good a shape as they could be probably right now.
I like it. In terms of, this is the one that I think is probably the most surprising to me, and something that I think a lot of fans are probably raising an eyebrow at, is Carson Sneed taking a bunch of visits this summer. His brother entering the portal here, Dayton, is a walk-on receiver. I mean, it's just weird because I think he grew up a Tennessee fan. It just felt like one of those obvious just fits for Tennessee, and he committed a while ago. And then you bring in my favorite name in this class, Moose Ludwig, which is just fantastic in terms of names here. But you have Jack Van Dorselaer, Moose Ludwig on opposite ends of the tight end spectrum here for Tennessee when they're running 12 personnel. Who says no? But I am kind of curious. Where do things stand with Carson? And then is the Moose Ludwig stuff kind of real? Like, hey, if Carson's going to take visits, like we're going to push for Moose here.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's pretty heavily involved there with his actual name is Matt, but yeah, like you said, everybody knows him as Moose.
Sorry, I'm not doing Matt. He's Moose. Like once I saw Moose as the nickname, like he's Moose.
So if you're looking for him in the 24/7 Sports database, he's under Matt. But Tennessee definitely a real player for Ludwig. There was a crystal ball pick not too long ago for Michigan, so there's some other teams that think they're in pretty good shape with him. So it's a battle. He's taking an official visit to Georgia. So serious competition for him. He's a good player, even being from Montana, not a state Tennessee recruits a whole lot. But yeah, I think Tennessee has done a good job with him, and they've stayed in the picture despite having a tight end commitment, which is sometimes not easy to do. They've had Carson Sneed committed for a long time, and he visited last summer. Ludwig did for the first time and put out a top 4 back in, I think, January that had Tennessee in it. So at the time, you weren't sure anything was going to come of it because Carson Sneed was in the class, and didn't look like they were likely to sign 2 tight ends. But now as this thing's played out, it's a good thing Tennessee kept recruiting Moose Ludwig the way they did. And yeah, there's a real chance they could have to address that position. We'll see what happens with Carson Sneed. That's a really interesting one to me. I don't know exactly what is going to come of his brother being in the transfer portal, but he's a solid player. He's shown up in the spring game the last couple of years. And interestingly, he entered the portal announced he was entering the portal the day before the spring game, when he's kind of made a name for himself the most the last 2 years. But he, not shocked that he wants to get on the field somewhere, but he and Carson definitely tied to the hip. And as you said, Carson grew up liking Tennessee, and he's an in-state kid. I don't think Tennessee's looking to part ways with him, but it's one of those situations they've got to protect themselves. So I could definitely see him going elsewhere at this point. And then North Carolina and all these other schools have kept recruiting him, and he's taking visits. He's got like 6 official visits scheduled. So he's going to make Tennessee sweat it out. And in the meantime, they've got to make sure they're covered. And I think it could be a situation where Tennessee just got to feel things out a little more with Carson Sneed just to see where things are before they really go all in on Moose Ludwig. But I think they're happy they've got that backup plan there. And definitely, would not rule out at all that Tennessee ends up kind of having to make a trade there at some point.
Final one here for you. Braden Roos. Is he a realistic Georgia pull here? Because it feels like this is Christian Gass all over again. I think he's a Lanier kid, right? If I remember correctly.
He's at Kel.
Kel. They're both Longhorns. I get them backward. Yeah, they're Lanier Longhorns and the Kel Longhorns. Yeah, and same color scheme too, actually. They're both orange. But when you look at him, 4-star linebacker there, do you foresee that being the same kind of Georgia-Tennessee battle it was for Christian Gass a year ago?
Yeah, that's very possible. His other official visits, I think, are Alabama and Michigan right now. We'll see. We'll see where that one ends up going. I think Tennessee's in a pretty good spot there, though, and has been for a while. He's been on campus 5 times since October. They've done a great job with him. Got him on campus even in December for one of the practices leading up to the college football playoff back in January for a junior day, and then was recently back in town for a visit that allowed him to attend the spring game and see the walkthrough the day before as well. So they've done a really nice job there. Georgia has tightened things up there a little bit, but yeah, I think you're not wrong to kind of peg that one as a Christian Gass type battle. We'll see where else he ends up visiting and what those visits might do. I never rule out anything with anybody these days going into official visits, because things can change on a dime with just one visit. And I've seen too many guys where you think, man, I didn't think that school was running higher than 3rd, and now he's committed coming off a visit there. So you just never know what can change. But yeah, if I had to guess, I think that one does probably come down to Tennessee and Georgia in the end. And Tennessee's done a really nice job there. They're set up to get the final official visit. So I think they've got a real shot at Braden Rouse, and that's one they've done a nice job with throughout the process. Kind of targeted him, I think, back in August, and he's pretty consistently made the trip to Knoxville since then.
Final thing, and I'll let you go, Ryan. And it's just a percentage. Over, under 50% Savion Hyder is a Tennessee ball.
Man, I would say under right now, just based on the odds of the other teams in that one winning that battle. But I think Tennessee has a realistic shot. I'm maybe as fascinated by that one as any battle that Tennessee is in, just because we've not seen them really go all in on the running back position. They've got, Peyton Lewis was a nice win for them a couple years ago, but to go get a really highly ranked, coveted guy like that, obviously they've not invested that kind of NIL resources into a running back to this point. So will they do that to win a battle that obviously it's a big boy battle? Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan. It's Michigan's a team you've heard a lot in connection with Savion Hyder in recent months. So I would not discount Michigan in that one, even though some people might just assume it's Georgia and Ohio State you're worried about. I don't think that's the case with necessarily with Savion Hyder. But yeah, Tennessee, that's another one. They get the final official visit, and sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't. But in these NIL discussions and things like that, sometimes that can be helpful, where you at least know where everyone else is, and then that last visit gives you a chance to kind of see if you've got a real chance of winning that battle. So I think Tennessee's got a shot there, and that's again just one where I'm interested in seeing kind of how they approach the running back position, because it's been kind of a strategic thing, I think, not to go all in from that. In terms of that position compared to, say, edge rusher, defensive line, offensive line, quarterback. They've kind of focused more on the positions the NFL prioritizes more. Now will they go all in on a running back? I think it's a really interesting possibility, and they put themselves in position to have a shot. So got him on campus again this spring. I think they're right in the thick of that one. So I'll say under 50, but that doesn't mean they can't win it. That's a realistic possibility, I think.
Ryan Callahan, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Vols 247 this week?
Well, I guess we'll find something to write about. I don't know. There's nothing going on, right? Yeah.
Patrick Brown's like, I just want to write about the depth chart. I want to write about actual ball, and you're making me cover this other stuff. Like, the man is over here trying to just write about ball, and you're not letting him.
Someone asked about a spring game recap the other day, and we're like, we've had so much other stuff to write.
Yeah.
We almost had to skip over the spring game. It's been crazy, but
also, we're not calling it a spring game. They've ruined it. Like they've all ruined it. It's not a spring game. Whatever that was.
Glorified practice. I mean, it had 8 possessions in it. I mean, that's not a full game, obviously, but yeah, it was. There were some things to see from that, but yeah, we've got lots of full coverage of the transfer portal, and obviously fires up Wednesday morning, and we'll have full coverage of that, and monitoring every quarterback that probably enters the portal at this point. We'll be keeping close tabs on that and where Tennessee goes to address that position, obviously, in the aftermath of Nico's departure, and then other positions too. Tennessee's got some other needs, so we'll see what else they end up doing in the portal. And as I said, coaches going on the road soon. Baseball's in full swing. Lots to check out, and definitely not a boring time right now on GoVols247.com.
Ryan Callahan, always a pleasure, my friend, and we'll check back in again soon.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where old friend WVLT's own John Sartori is here. John, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Like we were talking about before we got started here. Just another normal week here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Nothing crazy. No, just like no weekends completely.
It's a slow news week.
Yeah, just like nothing crazy happened, and we weren't just completely inundated with updates on the quarterback situation at the University of Tennessee over the weekend, with a orange and white game that was also happening. Just another normal week. Everything was fine.
Yeah, like we were talking about, Ice Bears are still playing.
Yes.
So we're all real excited about that. Smoky's opening up the new park.
Yeah.
Other than that, pretty slow news.
I'm actually surprised you're not there tonight, John. I didn't even think about that.
I'm off tonight, but everybody else is rocking and rolling. Last I saw, the Smokies were winning.
Yeah.
But I will say this, if it's only the first night, so of course you only had tonight to go, but go out and catch a game. It is awesome. We went there for media day, and it is beautiful. It's a beautiful park.
Too chilly right now. My wife and I were doing the walk with the dog tonight, and it doesn't look like, because it looks like a beautiful spring day, but man, it's like, I feel like 40s, and it's chilly. Like I don't know.
The wind chill is playing a factor for sure.
Now we need to get it up, but yes, go visit Covenant Health Park and support the Smokies here locally. Yeah. Go do it. It's fun. I love minor league baseball. I do it, but I am a Gwinnett Strikers guy.
Tomorrow's Cubs today.
There you go. I love it. John, as much as I would like to talk Ice Bears and Smokies, we do have to maybe talk about the Tennessee side of things here. I'm curious, now that you've had just a couple days here to kind of ingest what all transpired over the weekend and where things are, I'm curious from your vantage point, like, what was the most interesting part of tracking the Nico saga and keeping up with everything? What in your estimation was the most intriguing?
Just how fast it all went. I mean, because you wake up Thursday, okay, he's negotiating, but we saw that. We saw that with Boo Carter, Mike Matthews. All right, this will all figure itself out, whatever. This is nothing. And then as the day goes on, it starts to become a little bit more of something. But still, again, we went through this. This is kind of how things go these days. And then Friday, he doesn't show up. Okay, that's interesting. But, I mean, he's the quarterback. Like, he's not – I mean, they'll figure this out. And then, you get later into the evening and you hear no one knows where he is. And there's no way that he's not going to be here, right? It was just, it all happened so fast. And then by the end of the night, and you knew he wasn't going to be there tomorrow. Okay, he's not going to be there tomorrow. But again, that's not how this ends. That can't be how this ends. Tennessee goes to the college football playoff. Everyone waited forever for this guy, loved this guy. And also, the part that was just so weird about it was every time you talk to him, he's an extremely humble kid who his teammates seem to like. He seems to like his teammates. Heupel and the rest of the coaching staff have nothing but good things to say about him. It made very little sense just in the optics of it until you find out more that comes out about it, obviously. But it was just, that's the part that was so interesting, was just, there's no way that this can happen. And it happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, I don't know if you feel the same, but it doesn't, I guess once another, like Tennessee adds a transfer portal quarterback here in the next week or so, then it will feel like, okay, we've turned the page. But it doesn't, even with the orange and white game the next day without Nico, it still, because it wasn't on TV, like, again, what they've done, it's like the Godfather. Look at how they've massacred my boy. Look at how they massacred my spring game here, because it used to be a great thing. And because the spring portal and what that entails, it's like, oh, let's all just turn this into a nonsensical glorified practice and ruin the fan experience for what fans liked. And it was a good day. You saw the pictures of the difference between A Day and 24 versus 25, and it's just jarring. I mean, you were in the building. Like comparing it to the most recent last couple of years, I mean, obviously the vibe was weird just because of the Nico thing, but what was it like inside versus previous years?
It was weird because they went through, it probably wasn't that long, but it felt like a 30-minute session of just like red zone stuff. And it was like, when are we playing? Are we playing? Because 2:00 comes, and then they kept putting up like 5 minutes on the board, 5 minutes on the board. And we'd get done with 5 minutes, like, okay, now we're going. And there was never announcements about it, about like what was happening now, what was happening. And so, again, it probably wasn't that long, but it felt like a half hour of just these drills where George McIntyre was just throwing to receivers with no defense. And it was just odd. And then we got into the game. And once the game started, it was pretty normal, I would say. I thought that there were, again, it's like every spring game. You got bright spots. You got things people want to work on. You got people showing out in ways that they probably never will in a real game. But so there's really cool things to build on. But the other part about it is that there were so many starters who weren't dressed for the game for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know if it's, battling injuries or whatever it is, but like even Deshaun Bishop, who was dressed out, didn't have a carry in the game. So you wonder, was that always going to be it? Or has everything just gone out the window with the news that happened? So, I mean, at the end of the day, they played an orange and white game. It felt, once the thing started, like it was an orange and white game. And now, we'll move forward, and that team will look really different by the time fall camp comes.
Did you ask fans, like, kind of get the temperature of like what they felt about the game day experience and like what happened to the orange and white game? Did it feel like they were just like, what is this? Was this worthwhile? Was this worth the trip from Nashville or Chattanooga or whatever for whatever this was? Because you're calling it the orange and white game, but that is not the orange and white game. We both know that that's not the orange and white game.
Yeah, if you can hear, I've got a puppy. He found a sock. So that's his thoughts on that. No, it's a good question. Because, and I think the reason was that, like, again, until we got in there, we didn't know that was how it was going to go. And then we got in there, and that's when, we went through all the drills, and it lasted, I think it did last longer than last year's, and last year's was pretty short too. The crazy thing was how, I guess, because it happened so fast, was how many people didn't know about the Nico news. We were asking people. There was one kid, Riley Robinson, my colleague, she was doing like fan reaction stuff. It's like, what do you think about Nico? Oh, I'm so excited to watch Nico today. It's like, what did you hear about? He's not here. Oh, I got to go tell my family. And like, he was not the only person like that. There were plenty of people who either didn't know about what happened or didn't understand the, just how the finality of it.
Wow.
So that was the really interesting thing, was even though, us, this is so much a part of our lives, and so many Tennessee fans, every second of every day is Tennessee. There's still that amount of people who, this is the orange and white game, and we're going to go watch Tennessee for $12, who found out in that moment that this Tennessee team is very different from what they saw last year.
That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense though. Like we're required to be terminally online.
Right.
Like that's part of our deal. And we cover the team. Like we have to be cognizant of everything going on at all times. But I didn't really think about, like, that is a possibility of just how many people who were just not online Friday night And got up early for the game day, and we're not like, they didn't really know that Nico missed practice on Friday.
Well, I mean, also think about like these Facebook groups, especially like who there's so much information and 98% of it is like just AI fake stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nico Iamaleava is negotiating. He's going to miss the spring game. Sounds pretty fake AI the day before the orange and white game. Yeah. So you can't really blame anybody, but yeah, that was crazy. And, it stinks. It stinks for, the parents who have paid a lot of money to get their kids a number 8 jersey. It stinks for the kids who loved Nico. It stinks for all the fans who love Nico, but especially the kids, I mean, try explaining to your 7-year-old who loves Nico why Nico's not here today. Yeah. That can't be an easy conversation. And I know that that's like the least important of them all, but yeah, especially for an orange and white game where that is an opportunity for fans to go see the team at a lower price than usual. That is, I think, the biggest, takeaway from it was there's a lot of people in there who didn't know about the severity of what had happened.
Unless your kid's like a big cap guy, big NIL collective guy, and he's like, look, I get it. Like Nico, like the 7-year-old, like you can't go to 4. You can't do it.
That was the funny part was we were, again, asking people about NIL, and you got these like 10-year-olds like, it's ruining college sports. Like, okay, dude.
That's funny. But I will say, and this is kind of, I've gone back and forth. I think ultimately it will depend on what Heupel does this week. And I was talking to Caleb Mitchell, More Important Issues, earlier about this, was that I think this is, and I'm curious if you agree here, John, is that I think this is a pretty interesting part of the Heupel era on Tennessee, and I think it's going to be very telling how Heupel approaches the next week or so, because right now they've got all this goodwill nationally, right? Like you're seeing everyone is just like, Tennessee stood strong. You have coaches applauding Heupel. You have just journalists from all over the country applauding the University of Tennessee for standing tall and this, that, and the other about what Tennessee did here with Nico. That being said, they don't have a quarterback. This is not like the NFL where if your quarterback holds out or something, you just trade him for 3 first-round picks and like you can reset the deck a little bit. The difference here, though, when I think about the situation that Heupel is now in, is I know what Kirby would do at Georgia. I know what Saban and his prime at Alabama would do in this situation. Yeah. They're going out and they're going to be vicious. Like they're going out and they're like, hey, we had a 9.5 over under coming into the year. We are tied for top in the SEC next year. Like you're tied with Georgia, tied with Alabama, tied with Texas in terms of your over under. And
think they're going to go over under?
Yeah, Sport is all about it right now.
Yeah, his name's
he's
Sport.
Locked in.
He really wants to get into the conversation.
He's locked in, and we're pro dog on this program as Cleese the dog, one of our mascots here. But I just think you look at this, and I'm like, he has to go big. Like I don't think you can just go get Gaston or just go get a body, an FCS guy or whoever. Like I think he kind of has to go and pick. Like Tennessee has the narrative is going to shift drastically next week if Heupel does it right. Because Heupel's going to have to go get a starter. Like, he's going to go have to poach. Like, this is poaching season, and I don't think there's a way around it. I don't think there's a way for Tennessee to contend and to keep this thing humming without being a villain over the next week.
No, and that's exactly it, is you've got your two sides of it. Are you going to go out and, are you going to go to a quarterback and say, hey, we can give you $2 million, or are you going to play this by the book? There isn't a book, but are you going to? Avery Johnson's been the name that's been thrown out a ton from Kansas State. And I was having a conversation today. Do I want Avery Johnson to come here? No, because No, because of yes, Avery Johnson.
Whoa. I was like, whoa. No. That's only John. Avery Johnson fan. Like, hold on, Avery Johnson, if you're watching this, no, we want you to come. That John does not speak for all of us here on this program.
Let me finish. Avery Johnson would be fantastic. I say I don't want Avery Johnson to come here because of what it means for college athletics moving forward, as it is.
Right.
Where you say, oh, well, I don't like where we are at quarterback wise. I have better resources than school X.
Right.
I'm now just going to go pay that player. Yeah. And I don't feel like we've gotten there yet. We may have a little bit, but we haven't gone and just done it.
Yeah. I mean, this could be brutal. If you go Avery Johnson, Rocco Becht at Iowa State, like we're just throwing names, Sawyer Robertson at Baylor. Like there are guys like around the country that you can just go in and just wreck their season over the next week because these are teams that could win the Big 12 or win the 8, like win the Big, like there are names out there where if Tennessee goes to get to sitting starter, like that just completely just wrecks a whole fan base's season. They're like, what in the world just happened? Like we just went through all spring practice, but Tennessee has to do it. I think they have to.
If a kid wants to leave, if a kid sees a better opportunity, great.
Yeah.
And look, Tennessee's a great opportunity.
Yes.
Because
they're ready to win now.
They're ready to win now, but also because of what it does, we've seen how much Vol Nation cares about these players. And I think that that's an undervalued side of this. I didn't go to Tennessee. Seeing how much the fans take care of their own is something I've never seen anywhere else. And I think that that is something that needs to be, emphasized, because whoever comes here is going to be beloved, whoever it winds up being. If it is anybody, if it not, it'll be, George McIntyre. They already do love him. Jake Merklinger, they already do love him. Again, Avery Johnson, if he comes here, would be fantastic. He fits the scheme really well. He can run. And he's already got starting experience. Kansas State probably wishes they had a better season than they had last year, and they had a pretty good season with him. They're probably in line for a 10-win season this year with him. If it happens, again, I have no say over it. It's just how I feel about it. I don't want this to become, we just get to pay whoever because we have the money. We're kind of seeing that with South Alabama and North Carolina right now, with Gio Lopez going there. Gio Lopez was locked in to go back to South Alabama, and now all of a sudden he's entering the spring portal and he's going elsewhere. So that's the part of it. Everybody talks about NIL's ruining college sports. I don't think NIL's ruining college sports. NIL has been fantastic in many ways for many athletes. But this whole, again, the pay-for-play stuff, that's the part that it stinks. Can't do anything about it. It is what it is.
But it's the world you live in, and you have to be able to be the villain now. Like, you have to, this is the world. Like, Heupel, you have to be a villain here. Like, there's just no way around it. Like, you're playing, it's just like championship football. Like, it's just, that's part of the deal. It's like one of those deals, you're making $220,000 a week. Like, that's just part of where we're at. Like, you just have to go poach, and you have to go big. And I'm very curious to see how he handles it, because Heupel's obviously done a great job here. I just think this situation that he is now in without Nico for nothing. And I like Jake. And like you said, Jake and George, I think could be dudes here. I just think it's next year because I feel like everything was set up for a 3-man competition, an open competition next year with Jake, George, and Faison. I feel like that was the plan. It's an open best man win of the 3, and we'll go from there. But we were going to run it out with Nico this year. I just think you have to have a stopgap, and I think you have to have someone. It's also you have to do right by the guys who are here right now and the guys who are back, because you had that 9.5 over under. Because I mean, the schedule is amazing. Like Tennessee's still got the great schedule that they had a year ago. I mean, the defense has gotten better every single year. You just have to swing big here. I just don't think you're gonna. You just can't do it. Like what I would do is I would swing big, and I'd also pay Gaston to come back, like give him a couple $100,000 to come back and just be like, we need another coach.
That's the one that's interesting is Gaston. Like everybody, including myself and Gaston, I was like, okay, he's going to go to a group of 5 and compete for a starting job, and hasn't been picked up. Yeah. So Gaston's still out there.
Throw Gaston $200K and just be like, here's don't go to the workforce here for a little bit. Just go hang out, like be a coach with Jake and George and everybody. We just need a veteran in the room who knows the system better than anybody. Like just for a year.
He would. And I think
easy money.
Gaston, I think, would win 8 games easily. I think Gaston understands.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I haven't seen enough. I can't speak to that.
I think if you gave Gaston, here's the thing you have to remember about Gaston too.
You're all about the gas pipe. John Sartori is a gas pipe guy.
Oh yeah. Gaston was getting second team reps his entire season, just like George and Jake were this offseason. The preparation is a huge part of it too. And I'd be interested to see what Gaston does. Again, it doesn't matter because he's not on the team. So I don't even know why I'm discussing it. But look, at the end of the day, everybody gave Dabo Swinney so much flack for he's not adapting. Well, you make a good point of people are going to have to start being villains. And there's a lot of coaches who simply aren't villains. And I think we're going to see more of the Dabo Sweeney dilemma. You're going to have to start going after other teams' guys if you want to compete, and we'll see what happens.
I mean, it's the most important position in the sport, and you just there's just no way around it. And you got money to spend now. Like that's $2.5 million off the books. Like you got. I mean, I understand now you have to maybe move. You couldn't pay me enough to be a GM of God. Like just the constant negotiation and managing the
Tennessee
cap
doesn't
and all this kind of stuff.
I mean, Tennessee doesn't have them.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Is that going to be a thing next year, or is Tennessee going to have a GM? How many teams are going to have GMs?
Right.
And I personally, I'd like to see that. I think that kind of puts more guardrails than are there right now. But I don't know. Again, it's all so much of this stuff is just hypothetical. Where's Nico going to go? Who's going to pay him? It doesn't matter. It's not existent right now. It's all just doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the first game against Syracuse. ETSU's the home opener. And the rest of the schedule, that's it. We'll see. And we'll discuss it then. But until then, it's all just nobody knows.
Final thing, I'll get you out of here, done. I mean, what's your gut? Do you think Tennessee is still going to be a contender and a 9 to 10 win team without Nico? Or do you think this is one where it's too much to overcome this late in the process and they're an 8-7 win team?
I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? My gut tells me that Josh Heupel has a fantastic staff and he's laid the foundation, and this team will not win less than 8 games. That's my gut. They're just too good defensively. And they've just got it figured out, it seems, right now. And I have a hard time seeing them going to the Music City Bowl. I really do. It feels like this team is driven. You heard Miles Kitselman's comments after the game. I mean, that is a determined dude. Arion Carter's a determined dude. Chris Brazzell seems to have taken on a bigger role, even though he didn't play in the spring game. It just feels like his attitude's a little bit different. You've got, Star Thomas, Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis. Everybody's going to talk about Nico, but that defense is returning a ton. Jacoby Thomas looks like he's taking a step up and he's ready to go. So my gut tells me that this team can still contend to win 9 or 10 games. Easily 8. I'd put it at 7.5 easily. But again, we'll find out in Atlanta. I've already seen people already taking Syracuse to beat Tennessee, but I still think it's April 15th right now. By the time fall camp rolls around, there's going to be a very, very different look Tennessee offense when fall camp begins. So with the team they have right now, I'd say they could win 8 games. I really do, because I just, they run the ball well. They ran the ball pretty well in the spring game, honestly. But the defense is what carried them to the playoff last year. The defense can carry them to a few wins this year with the team they have now. So I think they're going to be fine. I think they'll figure it out, just like they have throughout the entirety of Josh Heupel's tenure.
I lean more towards where you're coming from. I think they've just got such a high floor. And I think, like you said, I think they're in a good spot to be another top 10 defense in scoring. I think the running game is going to be really good. I think Peyton Lewis and Deshaun are going to be great as a 1-2 punch. I think the offensive line is going to be fine. I think your tackles are going to be better than a year ago. I think there's a possibility that one of Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley break out. I would bet on one of the two break out, and you're really in good shape. I'm excited though, because I think the ultimate thing to put a bow on all this is like Nico is still theoretical. Like Nico making a year 3 jump was a theoretical thing that we're just like, okay, his second year in starting, third year in the system, like this is a good opportunity for him. But there are instances like progress is not linear. Like Nico could have not gotten better. Nico could have been, Quinn Ewers never got better at Texas. Quinn Ewers, he had a rough year. It was just the talent around him last year kind of propped him up and got Texas to where they ultimately did. I just look at it as like Tennessee is in such a great spot around the quarterback position that I just don't think you can waste this year. And I think this is a year-to-year sport now, more than anything. So you just have to, this is the hand you were dealt, and you got to react accordingly. And I think you're in a good spot. I think there's absolutely a possibility Tennessee gets better quarterback play with the new transfer quarterback than what they were going to get with Nico this year. Now,
I think that's a fair assumption.
Yeah, and look, that people are counting out Tennessee, and I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a quick quick study for whoever comes in here potentially. But I don't know. I think Tennessee's going to be just fine. John, what can the good folks check out from you and WVLT Sports this week?
Yeah, like we said, we were kind of joking about it, but the Ice Bears are in the SPHL playoffs. They're at home Wednesday night. We'll be live from there, and then it's a huge weekend of the Diamond Sports. It's crazy that baseball is kind of in the home stretch, but home series for both baseball and softball. We do a weekly pregame show at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning on WVLT. Big Orange leadoff. We'll have that for you. It's going to be a big weekend on campus for sure. But follow us at WVLT Sports on Twitter or X. We have some fun over there. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you are, and if you're not, we hope you give us a shot.
I love it. Go support the good folks over there at WVLT each and every day. John, thank you so much for the time. As always, I appreciate it, my friend, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Chase.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.